President, please be seated. The trial chamber is back in session, and the floor is given to defense counsel for Nguyen Chia to continue his questioning of the witness. You may proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, I would like to go to my next subject. And my next subject is related to the tasks and duties of whore. You've given testimony about whore already, also extensively in your own case. But I'm interested in specific excerpts from your own testimony in relation to whore. And what I would like to do is read those particular excerpts to you and then ask you if that is indeed what you said and possibly to expand on it. Mr. President, to speed up things, I have produced those 15 or 16 excerpts from his testimony underlined, so that when I read the excerpt, the witness can read along. So with your leave, I would like to present this little set in Khmer to the witness.
President, counsel, your request is granted.
Mr. Witness, let me start with excerpt number 1. Mr. President, that is E3/5748, English 001535568, French 001534445, Khmer 001534559. You say, and I quote, "I note that I only took personal charge of important detainees. For the others, it was whore who took charge of the details." End of quote. Is that what you said, and you still agree with that?
Witness. Thank you, counsel and Mr. President. I agree to this quote.
Thank you for your short answer. Mr. Duke, let me move to quote 2. So have a look at the second quote. Mr. President, that comes from E3/1570, English ERN 001-54193, Khmer 00154223, French 00154208. Whore took care of the Phnom Penh sector in every field. Interrogation as well as document reading. Anything that happened in the Phnom Penh sector would go through whore before it would reach me. Do you remember saying that, Mr. Witness, and do you still agree?
Witness, thank you, counsel and Mr. President. I agree 100% with the second quotes.
Again, thank you for your short answer. Let me turn to quote 3 now, Mr. Witness. That is something you said in your testimony in the first trial, E3/5792, Mr. President, at 11:43. For Comrade Kumbat, alias Hor, his daily work, he managed all the daily activities at S21. He was always occupied. That was the truth. End of quote. Is that a statement you still stand by? To Mr. Witness.
Witness. Thank you, Mr. President. I still recall. Yes, it is correct.
Let me move to the fourth excerpt. Mr. President, that is E3/5772, English ERN 002-09169, Khmer 001-86194, French 001-86-209-10. Hor introduced this practice, requiring interrogators to submit daily reports to him in order to protect himself and prevent similar incidents from occurring. In this way, he could better supervise the progress of interrogation. To my knowledge, this practice remained in effect until January 79. However, it was never applied to important interrogations, for which the interrogators reported directly to me. End of quote. Correct?
Witness, Mr. President, this quote is correct.
Thank you. Let me move to quote 5, E3/1576, Mr. President, English ERN 001-60722, Khmer 001-59563, and French 001-59584 till 85. Hor was relatively autonomous in his work. End of quote. Correct?
Witness, yes, this is correct.
Quote 6, Mr. Witness, Mr. President, E3/1578, English ERN 001-94549, Khmer 001-78023, French 001-78035-36. Hor had the power to decide arrests, that is, at the regiment level, which roughly corresponded to the district level. Correct?
Witness, thank you. This is correct, but I would like to add a bit further. This is referred to the combatants who were educated at Presaw.
What exactly do you mean, Mr. Witness?
Witness. You quote only part of the statement. That is why I add further information, especially the 17 April people. As regard their arrest, it was decided by the person at this level. They were called sub people. So the decision has already been made by the center in principle, and then the lower cadre could make decision on their arrest at their level.
Thank you for that addition, Mr. Witness. Let me move to quote 7, E35770, English 001776609, Khmer 001776602, French 001776615. Hor also had the right to decide to keep a prisoner to work at S21 and thus not to execute him immediately. Hor was responsible to the party for such decisions. End of quote. Correct?
Witness. Thank you, counsel. Mr. President, this quote is correct.
Let's move to quote 8, E3/5771, English 0018550, Khmer 0018549, French 0018550. For simple combatants, Hor controlled everything and could order Teerunakam. End of quote. Correct?
Oh. Witness. Thank you, counsel. Mr. President, this is a correct quote.
Quote 9. Mr. President, E3/5771, English 001855502, Khmer 001854494, French 001855511. This is about the interrogator who allegedly raped a prisoner. The interrogator guilty of the rape was simply assigned to interrogate another person. I add that he was not one of my men from M13, but someone from Division 703, and thus Hor was responsible to the party and not myself. Indeed, there were 3 categories of men employed at S21, those from M13, a dozen, those from Division 703, 300 or 400, and those from Kampong Chnang province, 40 to 50. And there comes an underlined quote again, Mr. Witness. I was directly responsible to the party for the first category. Hor was directly responsible for the other 2 categories. But I was also responsible overall as head of S21. End of quote. Is that a correct quote, Mr. Witness?
Witness. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a correct quote.
Just following up on this, is it correct that about 95% of the people working at Regiment 21 originally came from Division 703?
Witness. Yes, it is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Quote 10, E3/452, English 00147-567, Khmer 00146553, French 00147929. The tasks of detention and smashing had been the burden of Comrade Hoare ever since the creation of S21. Correct?
Witness, yes, it is correct. Could you reply again, because your microphone is not activated when you responded? Witness, thank you. It is a correct quote. Witness, yes, Mr. President. The quote by the Council is the duty of smashing was the responsibility of Hoare since the creation of S21. The first part is correct.
Quote 11, E3/455, English 00149911, Khmer 00146672, French 001-49936. Related to decision making, initially there was the party line. All persons in detention had to be smashed, more specifically related to S21. Hoare made the decision. Correct?
Witness, Mr. President, I would like to add a bit explanation to this quote. Talking about the decision, initially it was made by the party, and anyone who was arrested must be smashed. So the detainees who were sent, it was destined for execution, but the decision to take out was made by Hoare. This is in practice.
Quote 12, E3/65, English 001-47526, Khmer 00146488, and French 0017900. I never personally killed anyone with my own hands ever since I was chairman at Office 13. I was terrified. And at S21, the person who planned and gave the orders on this matter were Kim Wat, alias Hoare. And the implementer was chairman of my special unit, Him Hui. End of quote.
Simply ask counsel to repeat the document number and that. He's going a little fast for, if he could repeat the last one, please.
No problem. It is E3/65, English 001-47526, Khmer 001-46488, French 00147900. Let me read it again. Mr. Witness, I never personally killed anyone with my own hands ever since I was chairman at Office 13. I was terrified. And at S21, the person who planned and gave the orders on this matter were Kim Wat, alias Hoare, and the implementer was chairman of my special unit, Him Hui. Correct?
Witness, this is a correct quote.
Quote 13, E3/452, English ERN 001-47568, Khmer 001-46554, French 00147930. So then Professor Son Sen told me to tell Comrade Hoare that starting from that time, not to decide unilaterally to take out any victims. And he, Son Sen, instructed to have Hoare ask my opinion first before taking them. Correct?
Witness, Mr. President, I would like to add a bit information to be clear. Since the creation of S21, the person who made decision for smashing was Comrade Hoare, but in one incident he decided to take one of the detainees when the confession has not been completed. And then I received a phone call that any decision on smashing should be consulted with me, and until it was approved by me, the person can be taken away.
This is actually not the next quote, but quote 15. If you look at your papers at quote 15, this is something you said, and it's about the same, but not exactly. Let me read it to you. It's a transcript in his trial, 9/28. He said, and I quote, the first phase, that is, before the incident that a prisoner was killed, before the confession was completed, it was done by Comrade Hoare in order not to overburden the workload. And at that time, the detainees were only in reasonable number. After that incident of Sun Sari, alias Brav, and the confession was cut off, he, Hoare, was warned by the superior. And that was the time that anybody who was interrogated and finished, then Hoare would come to me and report it to me. I acknowledged that the interrogation was complete, and it was the order from the superior that they would be only taken after the confessions were extracted. And then, just immediately following up, quote 14, E3/452, English 0014.
President, please hold on. International Co-Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we get to 14, for 15, all that was read was a time. I didn't get a date or a E3 number.
President, Mr. Rector Kope, could you please read the ERN and E number of document more slowly so that we will have a proper record of transcript?
It's a transcript. It is E3/5801 at 9/28. So that was quote 15. Following up with this, Mr. Witness, is quote 14, and then I will ask you the question. That is E3/452, English 00147568, Khmer 00146554, and French 00147931. The word permission may be used inexactly in this situation. Before every killing, I had to clearly confirm that the interrogations had been completed and related to the lists which Hoare showed me. Mr. Witness, quotes 14 and 15 that I just read out to you, are they correct?
Witness, Thank you, Counsel. Mr. President, these two quotes are correct.
Thank you. And my last quote, quote 16, E3/358, English 002444243, Khmer 002442236, French 002442248. It's a quote on Lin, the Deputy Secretary of S71. Later on, also under orders from Pol Pot, Lin became very powerful because he could work directly with Hor and Him Hui without going through me. Correct?
Witness, thank you, Mr. President. This is a correct quote. So I would like to refer to document number 2 to it is A3/1570. Counsel, your reading of the quote in number 2, Ho was in charge of Phnom Penh in every section, including reading of document and before forwarding to me. And point number 3, and Counsel, you are not reading from the third point. So I confirm correct on number 2, but not point number 3. So I feel a bit confused on number 3. I removed Ho from his position as my deputy. This is not reflect the practice at S21. So if I read the whole thing, it is like that. So in your quote, Counsel, you did not quote point number 3 when I mentioned President. So please read ERN on point number 3 of your transcript, Dutch. Witness, point number 3 and point number 1 has not been read by the Counsel. So if you quote number 3, I cannot confirm because Ho was not my assistant. He was my deputy at S21.
Thank you, Mr. Witness, for that addition. Now let me move to my next subject, and I might come back to who was responsible for which tasks within Regiment 21. I would like now to talk to you about the reception of prisoners, people who would come to... okay, sorry, yeah, please go ahead.
President, please hold on. You should wait until the microphone is activated. I just asked for clarification to the Counsel. If you did not quote point number 3, if you did not quote this point number 3, it is no problem. So in E3 1570, the quote was that I remove the role or the rank as assistant from Ho. So my confirmation on the quote was not included number 3 because you did not quote number 3. So I asked you, counsel, did you quote point number 3 for my confirmation?
I did, but naturally I took an excerpt. It was part of your testimony, but I did quote. I did read to you quote 3, if that's your question. But let me move to my next subject, and that is the reception of prisoners.
President, Mr. Koppe, could you clarify the matter, because it seems that it is controversial in your examinations. So I could not follow this line of questioning. As far as I recall, you did not quote this part for the witness, and then the witness failed to confirm. It might be that you highlighted on this section, and the witness refused this kind of part of number 3 because it does not reflect to what he did at S21.
I'm a bit confused with the answer, whether he now refers to 2 or 3. But I'm happy to get back to him after the break and to see exactly what is in quote 3. The quote 3 was part from the transcript, E3/5792. But it seems that he might have a problem with quote 2. So I'm not entirely sure if I understand. Mr. Witness, do you have a problem with a quote from your testimony in court, or from your testimony in quote 2 answering a question from the investigating judges?
President, court officer, could you take the document from the witness for me? Kong Samon, may I help in providing clarification? In fact, there's a confusing here. Based on the witness, it is point number 3, but the quote by counsel for Noon Chea was quote number 5 in document E3/1570 ERN in Khmer 0015 4223. English 0015 41 93. I don't have a ERN in French. Thank you. President, so this point has not been quoted by the counsel, so the witness is not required to respond. So the confusion caused by the highlighted portion, and witness found this later, and he was concerned about his confirmation on the quote. So we are now solved the misunderstanding.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I said, let me now turn to the matter of reception of prisoners. Can you describe to us in general terms how would prisoners be received when they arrived in Phnom Penh? What would exactly happen? Where would they be brought in first?
Witness, thank you. It has, in its time and its broad to explain. I cannot answer in short. I will provide you the explanation in 3 stages. Some prisoners were important ones, or for example, the ones that they were sent from Phnom Penh, Koi Thuon, Mansana Yatya, and Koi Thuon was sent to S21. So, and number two, some prisoners could be called by me and arrested on the spot. For example, Comrade J. Han, alias Pan, was decided by the party for the arrest, and I was called at 5 a.m. Comrade Chan was called by me after the decision to my house, and he was arrested there. There was another case when I called into a meeting concerning Unit 170. Members of Unit 170 were arrested by S21. At the beginning, respective units would bring in their members to S21. Concerning Ket Chau alias Sai, Comrade Ket Chau alias Sai, the guard unit of Nuon did the job. That unit would bring in people to S21 to be arrested, and then this person was arrested together with the people who were brought in by this individual. Pang was coming to S21 on a motorbike and was arrested by S21, and I was sent. S21 staff members were sent to Battambang for the arrest of people as well. In summary, people arrested and sent into S21 were decided by Office 1870.
Thank you for that answer, but I was actually more interested in the reception house or post on Street 360 in the building that is now known as the Beehive radio station. What would happen when prisoners would first arrive? Would they be offloaded at the Beehive radio station building at Street 360? What exactly was the procedure?
I can only answer partially the question. There was a post close to S21's gate preventing the vehicle from coming directly into S21. The current radio station, Beehive radio station, was the office of Hui, and radio communication could be made to the rice field. And as for the real arrests, it happened like what I said.
In your statement, E3/5748, English ERN 001535567, Khmer 001534459, you said that prisoners would first arrive on Street 360 and would then be greeted by Him Hui and his unit at the reception post. I only took personal charge of important detainees. for the others, it was Hoare who took charge of the details. Is that correct?
អរគុណជំរាបប្រសាលោកប្រធាន
Witness, Mr. President, the words used by counsel are not clear to me. The methods of arrest and receiving people at the house, which is currently the Beehive's radio station, were under the management of Hui. And after they were sent in properly by Hui, were responsible for the interrogation, be they important ones or not important ones. And some prisoners were arrested at my house. I mean, important prisoners were arrested at my house, and afterwards they were sent in to the compound of S21.
You were also asked a question earlier about the departure of prisoners, and you said in E3/5748, that's the same document on the same ERN pages, English 00153568, Khmer 00153460. In relation to the departure of the detained prisoners, you say, I have no idea. I was never present. Him Hui and the other members of the special unit could provide you with this type of explanation. Is that correct? Is that how the situation was, that you had no idea how prisoners departed?
Mr. President, I only know the numbers of prisoners to be sent out, and in relation to the protecting those prisoners or how the process were done, I do not know. Usually they asked the permissions from me how many prisoners to be sent out to avoid the mistake in sending out prisoners. For example, there was a case that Hoare was sending out a prisoner by mistake.
Mr. Witness, in this trial, in this courtroom, Kim Hui testified on the 3rd of May 2016. At 15:38 in the afternoon, the prosecution asked whether there were ever people sent from S21 to Presar, and if so, why? And then Him Hui responded, they were from their own units and then arrived at S21. However, they were not put directly into the compound of the prison. They stopped at the main road, and I was then asked to send those prisoners to Presar to work the field. Those people were accused of having committed mistakes or faults. End of quote. Is it correct that there were prisoners arriving at S21 Phnom Penh and were subsequently moved to Presar?
Thank you, Counsel. Mr. President, all prisoners were brought to the current beehive radio station. For the prisoners to be sent out to Preso were received at that location as well. Hui did not decide who to be sent to Preso. The decision was made by the upper echelon. So all prisoners were received at the current beehive radio station before they were sent to Preso or rice field. Hui did not have the authority to decide who to be sent out to which locations. The decision was made by the upper echelon.
So is it the case then that anyone who ended up in Presar at one point in time was offloaded from a truck and received at the reception area in Street 360?
ជំរាបប្រសានលោកប្រធាន
That is correct, Mr. President.
Do you know the chief, or do you remember the chief of the photography unit?
Thank you, Counsel. The photography unit was headed by Sriang, the actual chief. Kum Sriang, Song and Nit were within the photography units as well, and I cannot recall other names from that unit.
Sring was also interviewed by the investigating judges in case 001. Mr. President, that is E3/7639. I realize I only have the English and the French ERN, but I will provide it with you as soon as possible. English ERN 00162-736, French 00338-079. Sring answers to a question the following. The question is, after their photos were taken, where were the prisoners sent? And then he says, the majority of the prisoners who had been photographed were sent to farm rice. But aside from that, I don't know. Those prisoners sent to farm rice were mostly minor people. I went along and photographed that. I saw that they farmed rice. And in relation to that same subject, Mr. Witness, he talks about a sort of incident with you. And my question will be whether you remember that. English ERN 00162-734 and French 00338-076. He says, one day when I was developing, photos were damaged. And when I requested to retake the photos, I could only find 2 of them. And I asked Duik, brother, the prisoners brought in yesterday, where have they all gone? He, Duik, said they had all gone to the rice fields. Go photograph them at the rice fields. End of quote. So, Mr. Witness, is the proceeding described by Srang and this incident correct? Is that a correct description of what happened? And do you recall that particular incident?
អរគុណ
Thank you, Counsel. Mr. President, first I would like to ask put a question to Counsel. What is the date of the written record of the statement? When was that statement recorded before the co-investigating judges?
I'm happy to answer that question because then at the same time I can also give you the Khmer era ends, and I apologize for not giving it earlier. The first quote Khmer is 00162713, and the second is 00162710. And Mr. Witness, Nim Kim Srang said this to the investigators on 22 October 2007 in your case.
Thank you. The statement by Lim Kum Sriang is not correct. It is completely wrong.
And why is that?
Because it is not true. It is not the truth statement. Lim Kum Sriang was the chief of photography unit, and no other Kum Sriang came to ask me about the disappearance of people. And prisoners from S21 were not sent to the rice field. Lim Kum Sriang took photographs of prisoners at S21, and the special unit took the photographs of the dead prisoners. So it's not the true statement. It does not reflect what happened during the time. Then the truth is like what I have described.
Well, Mr. Witness, the reason I extensively read all those quotes from you about the tasks of Hor and who was responsible for what was to establish that you had no idea of what was going on maybe for 90% of the work at S21. Is that correct?
No, it does not mean I do not understand all the tasks at S21. 90% of the tasks at S21 were not aware by me. But the statement by Lim Kum Sriang is not true, and I could say that he told lies.
But isn't it true, Mr. Witness, that you said yourself that you were in your house busy from 7 till 11, from 1 till 4, from 6 till 11, only reading confessions and not doing anything else? Isn't that true?
Head of S21 was not a stupid person. Chief of S21 knew everything, every work. For example, Hall took a person to be smashed was known by head of S21, and that was known to the decision to the center Yes, I agree that head of S21 was busy reading confessions of enemy in the morning and also in the afternoon up to 5 or 6, and during the night time, head of S21 were also readings as confessional from 7 up to 12. Payne, Hall, Sting, Momnai were working at S21 as well. So the information would come from those individuals. And Kum Sring went in and out of my house on a frequent basis compared to others. Sring had a roles in taking photograph, and later on I had my personal Olympus camera with the Olympus stand, and I used that camera to take photographs, and I asked Hall for that camera, and later on I took photographs with that camera and gave the film to Sring to develop. Sring was not specialized in taking photograph. He was specialized in the projecting, making the movies as well. The movies concerning Pol Pot in China and Korea were asked by me, and I gave to Sring for showing as well. Again, Sring went in and out of my house very frequently, and if you said that head of S21 knew nothing and was a stupid person, it's not correct.
But Mr. Witness, yesterday I confronted you with statistics of armed forces, and you didn't even know that Regiment 21 consisted of 2,000 or 2,300 men. How is that credible testimony if you don't even know how many men there were in your regiment?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Council's now asking the witness to comment on credibility of testimony. He's used some quotes from Hoare. The witness has responded. Obviously, the witness didn't do everything himself at S21 and relied on people. But now he's asking for comments on credibility about past testimony, which I think is an improper question.
I suggest we stop the pleading from both sides and go back to eliciting evidence.
It's almost time, Mr. President. Let's move to my next subject.
President, thank you. It is now time for lunch break, and the chamber will resume its hearing in the afternoon at 1:30. Security personnel, please bring Kyu Sampon and Kangayeo Lesduk, the witness, to the waiting room downstairs, to their separate rooms downstairs, and bring in Kyu Sampon before 1:30 p.m. and the witness Kangayeo Lesduk at 1:30 p.m. The court is now in recess.